If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast, The Final Voyage and Strange Circumstances in Barbados. The USS Cyclops limped into Barbados on March 3, 1918, carrying more than cargo. Something felt wrong from the moment she docked. Captain George Worley had planned a quick stop. Instead, the massive naval vessel stayed for days. Local dock workers whispered about the captain's strange behavior. He paced the deck at night, muttering to himself in broken German phrases that made the crew nervous. The ship's real trouble began when they started loading manganese ore. This black, heavy mineral was needed for steel production back home. But Cyclops took on far more than usual. The cargo holds groaned under the weight. Some sailors quietly wondered if their ship could handle such a massive load. Worley seemed different during these final days. Officers who had served with him for years barely recognized the man. He snapped at simple questions. He changed orders without explanation. One crew member later wrote to his family that the captain appeared to be fighting some invisible enemy. The loading process took much longer than expected. Each day brought new delays. Workers noticed the ship sitting lower in the water as more ore poured into her belly. The vessel's normal, graceful lines became heavy and awkward. She looked tired before the journey even began. Local port officials grew suspicious. Ships usually came and went quickly during wartime. But Cyclops remained anchored, taking on cargo that seemed to test her limits. Some officials quietly documented their concerns, though they kept their doubts to themselves. Strange incidents occurred during those final nights. Crew members reported hearing metal groaning below deck. Others spoke of unusual vibrations that ran through the ship's frame. The chief engineer examined the engines multiple times, finding nothing obviously wrong, yet unable to explain the odd sounds. Worley made peculiar decisions about the crew. He dismissed several experienced sailors without clear reasons. New men came aboard, but they seemed nervous and unprepared. The captain's choices puzzled everyone who witnessed them. On March 9th, everything changed. Worley suddenly announced they would depart the next morning. No explanation, no warning. The crew scrambled to prepare for immediate departure, though many felt the ship needed more time and attention. That final evening, witnesses saw Cyclops sitting dangerously low in the water. Her massive cargo had transformed the once proud vessel into something that barely resembled a Navy ship. Local fishermen shook their heads, wondering how such a heavy load could possibly make the journey north. The morning of March 10th brought calm seas and clear skies. Perfect sailing weather. Yet something invisible seemed to hang over the ship as she prepared to leave Barbados forever. The disappearance without a trace. On March 4th, 1918, the USS Cyclops left Barbados with its cargo of manganese ore. The massive naval ship carried over 300 souls aboard. Captain George Worley expected a routine journey to Baltimore. The weather looked fair. The seas appeared calm. Then something impossible happened. The ship simply vanished. No distress call. No final message. No cry for help cutting through the radio waves. One day the Cyclops existed, sailing north through familiar waters. The next day, it was as if the ship had never been. Naval headquarters waited for word. Days passed. The expected arrival time came and went. Still, nothing. Officers checked their watches and scanned empty horizons. Where was their ship? The first search vessels rushed out to sea. They combed the waters between Barbados and Baltimore. Mile after mile, they found nothing. No floating debris, no life preservers, no oil slicks marking a disaster. The ocean held its secrets tight. More ships joined the hunt. Aircraft swept overhead when weather allowed. The search area grew wider each day. Rescue teams checked every island and coastline. They asked fishing boats and merchant vessels, had anyone seen the Cyclops? The answer was always the same: no. This silence puzzled everyone. Large ships don't just disappear. When vessels sink, they leave traces. Wreckage floats to the surface. Lifeboats drift away. Oil spreads across the waves. Something always remains to tell the story. But the Cyclops left nothing behind. Naval investigators began asking harder questions. Could the ship have suffered a sudden catastrophe? A massive explosion might explain the lack of radio contact. Yet explosions create debris fields. Even catastrophic failures leave evidence scattered across the sea. The cargo manifest raised new concerns. Manganese ore was heavy. Had the ship been overloaded? Could shifting cargo have caused the vessel to roll and sink rapidly? These theories made sense on paper. In reality, even quick-sinking ships send distress signals. Experienced captains know their vessels. They feel changes in balance and movement. They have time to radio for help before disaster strikes. Captain Worley had sailed these waters many times before. He knew his ship. The weeks turned into months. The searches continued, but hope faded. Families waited for news that never came. The Navy faced uncomfortable questions from the press and the public. How does a 540-foot naval vessel vanish completely? How do 306 people disappear without a trace? What force could swallow an entire ship so completely that not even a single piece of wood survived to wash ashore? These questions echoed through naval headquarters. They whispered through port cities. They haunted the families left behind. The USS Cyclops had become something more than a missing ship. It had become a mystery that defied explanation. The shadow of Captain Worley and allegations of German sympathies. Something darker lurked beneath the surface of Captain George Worley's command. The man who held the USS Cyclops in his grip was no ordinary naval officer. His crew whispered about him in hushed tones, sharing stories that painted a picture of a leader who walked the line between duty and something else entirely. Worley's behavior on deck raised eyebrows among seasoned sailors. He would pace the ship at odd hours, muttering in German under his breath. Strange for an American captain during wartime. His orders came sharp and sudden, often making little sense to the men who served under him. More than one sailor reported feeling uneasy about their captain's true loyalties. The war had everyone on edge, but Worley seemed different. He kept to himself, avoiding the usual camaraderie expected of ship leadership. When other officers tried to engage him in conversation about the German threat, he would change the subject quickly or simply walk away. This pattern did not go unnoticed. Official records from that time period reveal troubling details about Worley's background. Born in Germany before moving to America, he had family ties that stretched back across the Atlantic. Naval intelligence files, released decades later, show that suspicions about his allegiances had been growing for months before the Cyclops disappeared. Crew members who served on previous voyages with Worley later testified about strange incidents. They spoke of mysterious meetings in port cities, conversations conducted in German with unknown visitors, and cargo manifests that seemed to shift without explanation. One sailor claimed he saw Worley burning papers in his cabin late one night, destroying what appeared to be personal correspondence. The timing of these events creates an uncomfortable pattern. As America fought Germany on foreign shores, questions swirled around the captain of one of the Navy's most important cargo vessels. Was Worley simply an eccentric leader, or was something more sinister at play? Naval investigators found evidence that Worley had made contact with German sympathizers in various ports. These connections, documented in intelligence reports, suggested a network of communication that extended far beyond normal shipping business. The captain's movements between voyages often included stops that served no apparent military purpose. When the Cyclops vanished without a trace, these suspicions took on new weight. Had Captain Worley deliberately steered his ship into danger? Did he sabotage his own vessel? Or had his suspected German connections finally caught up with him, leading to consequences that claimed not just his life, but the lives of everyone aboard? The questions multiplied faster than answers, leaving investigators to wonder if they were dealing with simple misfortune or something far more calculated and cold. Theories of structural failure and cargo instability. The USS Cyclops carried secrets in her steel bones that sailors never spoke about. Built during wartime, she belonged to a class of ships known for their problems. Her sister ships had already shown cracks under pressure. Engineers whispered about weak spots in the design. The ship stretched 542 feet long, but had only one propeller shaft running down her center. This created a spine of weakness that ran the entire length of the vessel. When storms hit, the ship would twist and bend in ways that made her metal scream. Rivets popped loose, seams opened like wounds. But the real danger lay hidden in her cargo holds. Manganese ore looks harmless enough. Dark chunks of rock piled high like coal. Yet this material behaves differently than other cargo. It shifts without warning. One moment it sits still as stone. The next, it flows like water when the ship rolls. The Cyclops carried 11,000 tons of this ore when she vanished. That weight pressed down on her already weakened frame like a giant's fist. Navy records show the cargo was loaded quickly in Barbados. Too quickly, some experts now believe. Picture the scene below deck. Mountains of ore fill the holds from floor to ceiling. Wooden barriers hold it in place, but wood breaks under pressure. As the ship rocks in heavy seas, the ore begins to move. First a trickle, then a stream, then an avalanche of shifting weight. When cargo shifts suddenly to one side, a ship tips over. Sailors call this a death roll. The vessel leans further and further until water pours over the side. Within minutes, the ship can disappear beneath the waves. The Cyclops had another deadly flaw. Her holds were not properly divided into sections. If ore broke free in one area, it could cascade into others like dominoes falling. This would create a catastrophic shift that no captain could control. Naval architects who studied similar ships found stress fractures in their hulls. Metal fatigue from years of heavy loads and rough seas had weakened the steel. The Cyclops was older than her sisters. She had carried countless tons of cargo across dangerous waters. On that March day in 1918, all these factors may have combined into the perfect storm of disaster. The ship's weak design, the unstable cargo, and the endless strain of wartime service created conditions for sudden catastrophe. When the end came, it happened too fast for radio calls or lifeboats. The ocean keeps its secrets well, but the evidence points to a ship that broke apart from within, taking all souls aboard into the depths without a trace. Wartime speculations and the U-boat hunt. The year was 1918. German submarines prowled the Atlantic like hungry wolves. Their deadly shadows moved beneath the waves, striking ships without warning. Every merchant vessel that left port faced the same terrifying question: would they make it home? When USS Cyclops vanished, naval commanders had good reason to suspect the worst. German U-boats had already sent hundreds of ships to the ocean floor. The timing seemed perfect for enemy action. The route was dangerous. The cargo was valuable. Everything pointed to a submarine attack. War records tell a chilling story. German submarines operated freely in those waters during March 1918. U-156 had been spotted near Barbados just weeks before Cyclops disappeared. Other enemy vessels hunted in the same shipping lanes. The pieces seemed to fit together like a deadly puzzle. Naval intelligence officers worked through the night, studying patrol reports and submarine sightings. They mapped enemy movements across the Atlantic. Every German vessel was tracked and logged. The evidence looked convincing at first glance, but something strange began to emerge from their investigation. No German submarine reported sinking a large American naval vessel during that time period. No crew claimed credit for destroying Cyclops. This was unusual. German commanders typically documented their victories with great care. After the war ended, Allied forces seized German naval records. Intelligence teams searched through thousands of documents. They studied submarine logs, commander reports, and official communications. The search was thorough and desperate. Military leaders needed to know what happened to their missing ship. The results were puzzling. No German record mentioned USS Cyclops. No submarine captain claimed the kill. No intelligence report described attacking such a vessel. The German Navy kept detailed records of their successes. This silence was deafening. Some officers refused to accept these findings. They argued that records might have been destroyed or hidden. Enemy submarines could have attacked without reporting back to base. Radio communications were often interrupted during wartime. Maybe the attacking U-boat was itself destroyed before sending word home. These theories sounded reasonable. War creates chaos and confusion. Important information gets lost in the fog of battle. Records disappear. Messages never arrive. The ocean keeps its secrets buried in salt and darkness. Yet other naval experts found the silence too complete to ignore. German submarine warfare followed strict patterns. Commanders reported their positions regularly. Successful attacks were always documented when possible. The complete absence of any mention seemed impossible if Cyclops had truly been sunk by enemy action. The investigation reached a dead end. Military intelligence had expected to find clear proof of German involvement. Instead, they discovered a void where evidence should have been. The mystery only grew deeper with each document they examined. Mutiny reports and onboard unrest. The USS Cyclops carried more than cargo on her final voyage. She carried secrets that would die with her crew. Captain George Worley was no stranger to trouble. His German accent made him an object of suspicion during wartime. But the real danger came from within his own ship. Whispers of mutiny followed the Cyclops like a shadow across the Atlantic. The crew had grown restless. Months at sea without proper shore leave had worn their nerve thin. Men who once worked side by side now exchanged harsh words and suspicious glances. The ship's mood had turned dark. Reports from earlier ports painted a troubling picture. In Rio de Janeiro, several crew members had gone missing. They simply vanished into the crowded streets, abandoning their posts without explanation. Those who remained seemed angry and desperate. Worley faced a choice that would haunt maritime history. Should he delay the voyage to find replacement crew? Or should he sail shorthanded with men he could no longer trust? He chose to sail. The decision would prove fateful. A cargo ship needs every hand working together. When trust breaks down, disaster follows close behind. The Cyclops was carrying 10,800 tons of manganese ore. This massive weight demanded perfect balance and careful handling. Witnesses in Barbados, the ship's last known stop, reported strange behavior among the crew. Some sailors appeared drunk and disorderly. Others seemed frightened, speaking in hushed tones about their captain and their cargo. One dock worker later recalled overhearing heated arguments between officers. The words were unclear, but the anger was unmistakable. Something was very wrong aboard the Cyclops. The ship's radio operator had been acting strangely too. He sent fewer messages than usual during the voyage. When he did communicate, his signals seemed rushed and nervous. Then, somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the messages stopped completely. Had the crew turned against their captain? Did fighting break out over the ship's dangerous cargo? Some historians believe the answer lies in those final, silent hours. The manganese ore itself might have played a role in the crew's behavior. This industrial mineral can be toxic in large quantities. Living so close to such a massive cargo load could have affected the sailors' minds and judgment. Fear breeds more fear aboard a ship. When crew members start to panic, that panic spreads like fire through dry wood. A vessel becomes a floating prison when trust disappears and suspicion takes hold. The Cyclops sailed into history carrying not just ore, but the weight of human conflict that may have sealed her fate. The endless search and the mystery's lingering legacy. The ocean kept its silence, but the Navy would not give up so easily. Ships spread across the Atlantic like a vast net, searching every wave and current. Planes flew overhead in careful patterns, their crews scanning the blue expanse below. Radio operators called out again and again, hoping for any word from the lost vessel. Days turned into weeks. The search grew larger, covering thousands of square miles. Coast Guard cutters joined the hunt. Commercial ships reported anything unusual they spotted. Still, the sea revealed nothing. The official declaration came quietly. The USS Cyclops was lost with all hands. No wreckage, no survivors, no final message explaining what happened in those dark waters. This absence of evidence puzzled everyone involved. Ships don't simply vanish without leaving traces. Wood floats, metal sinks, but often washes ashore later. Life preservers drift for miles. Personal belongings surface weeks after disasters. Yet the Cyclops left nothing behind, as if it had never existed at all. Years passed, and the mystery only deepened. Naval historians studied every detail of the ship's final voyage. They examined weather records, traced possible routes, and interviewed anyone who might have information. Each investigation raised more questions than answers. The story began attracting attention beyond military circles. Writers discovered the case and found it irresistible. A massive naval vessel disappearing without explanation made perfect material for books and articles. The tale spread through popular culture, gathering new details and theories along the way. Some people pointed to the ship's location when it vanished. The area where the Cyclops was last seen became part of a larger pattern of mysterious disappearances. Other ships and planes had gone missing in those same waters. Writers started connecting these incidents, creating stories about a cursed region of the ocean. The idea of a dangerous triangle in the Atlantic captured public imagination. The Cyclops became the centerpiece of these theories, its disappearance cited as proof that something strange haunted those waters. Scientists and naval experts remained skeptical. They preferred practical explanations over supernatural ones. Structural failure seemed most likely. Perhaps the ship broke apart suddenly, sinking too quickly for distress calls. Maybe rough seas overwhelmed the vessel before anyone could react. But doubt lingered. No explanation fully satisfied all the evidence. The complete absence of any trace remained troubling. Even catastrophic sinking usually leaves some debris floating on the surface. Today, more than a century later, the fate of the USS Cyclops continues, fascinating researchers and mystery enthusiasts. New technologies have made deep-sea searching easier, yet the ship remains hidden. The ocean guards its secret well, keeping 306 souls and their stories locked away in darkness. The mystery endures because it touches something fundamental about human nature. We need answers. We want to understand what happened to those sailors on their final voyage home.